some of the people who are here said, you know, the best thing for business is for the government to get out of the way. And if you look at the experience around the world, you'll find that yes, indeed, there are examples where when the government got out of the way, things went perfect. The IT sector in India is an example. But also look at the introduction of mobile phones in Africa. It's a success story in the sense of the spread of that new technology today. How can that symbiotic relationship be shaped in such a way that trade support institutions can be effective?
Whereas in the developing countries, it's very common to find underfunded trade support institutions, often maintained on a string through foreign donors. That the main obstacle for healthy budgeting of the trade support institutions in our countries of Latin America is that we're political orphans. We don't have natural constituents. And this is different from overall trade reforms. In overall trade reforms, you have exporters who have an interest in lobbying government for the reduction of import tariffs and lobbying governments for trade negotiations that will provide market access. And those are the natural allies of politicians and technocrats that believe in free trade or freer trade. As trade promotion agencies, what they do is provide information about product standards and about how to export. And so established exporters end up always complaining about how useless the trade promotion agencies are, because they know it all already. And the established exporters are actually either seeking subsidies in the form, for example, of import duty drawbacks that reduce the costs of importing capital goods for export, that then can be used to produce goods for export. Right? So what seems to be the natural source of support for export promotion agencies turn out to be an impediment for the proper budgeting of these institutions. I think that an obvious place to start is by building credibility for the activities that the trade promotion agencies support. And how do we do that? There is no substitute for rigorous and independent monitoring and evaluation. And we should open our doors for the ministers of finance or the ministers of the economy or some other agency that's unrelated to the trade agency to evaluate and monitor our performance. Is that trade support institutions should be seen as internal advocates also of policies aimed at the productive transformation of import competing sectors. Because those are the basis for constructing the future clients of export promotion agency.
Without trade, without export, the country cannot exist. In our country, before all these institutions are established, one commodity is only dominating the export or trade in our country, which we call it coffee. But recently, because of support given from various sectors, diversification of commodities are happening. And instead of coffee, we are also now exporting oil crops, pulses, livestock and emerging products, and different types of agricultural products. So diversification of commodities are increasing, and diversification of importer countries are increasing, and the volume of export. 10 years back, we are exporting amount $300 million US. Today, we are exporting amount $1.2 billion only from agricultural commodities. If you want to get license or certification, it took about 2-3 months. Nowadays, we will get these certification licenses within half an hour or sometimes within 20-30 minutes. So this is a progress way of supporting trade in our country so that investors or traders can compete with less cost and getting good quality of service from public sector. The only problem still we have is We have to modernize, reform all the ministries who are related to trade business, especially bank, trade institutions, Ministry of Agriculture, and the license officers, and certifications, and sanitary, phytosanitary certification has to be improved so that the exporter can get service on time to compete in the international market.
Weeconomics is a book that came out by a couple of Canadians a few months ago. It's been nominated as the best business book of the year for 2007. And I was asked to take this development, I guess, technological development, and see whether that can interface somewhat between the people that have the money in the government that are trying to encourage trade and economic development, and the individuals, the companies, mostly SMEs, that are trying to maintain their employment and create new opportunities and to innovate. Basically, what a wiki is, it is a digital brain, just like Wikipedia was created by thousands and thousands of people over the past 10 years, inputting anything and everything onto this site. Wikipedia hired nobody. So who owns Wikipedia? Nobody. And everybody. You own it, I own it, whether you input it to it or not, you can access it, it's part of your life. What if we could have a Tradepedia? And it may be on a regional or it may be on a national base. What if the industry sectors put up onto this system everything that they wanted to do in certain markets, their ambitions, their plans, their innovative ideas, everything creative that comes from the bottom up, and then have government also input to that for a Canadian Tradepedia. So what I'm trying to do is entice yourselves to think a little bit about if that would be valuable for your country. If some kind of a system could be set up whereby you can input, you can take away from, you can learn from, you can work with. It is gender neutral. It is always up to date. It is always being added to. It is age neutral. It is geographical neutral. It's just something on the internet.